Alrighty, we are going to quickly make some playground shapes. So the picture of all the shapes is on canvas if you look at our current day. But we're just going to start off out of the 5 shapes. We're just going to do a ramp first and the crawling tube in this video. We'll have a second video follow-up for the other 3 shapes. So the first thing I want to do is let's get ourselves a nice view here. We'll keep the person just as a kind of a reference point. Now let's go ahead and hit R for rectangle. Before we draw our rectangle, I want you to go to your keyboard and notice if you tap your arrow keys, so like your right, your left, your up, all those different arrow keys, you'll notice that your rectangle tool is getting locked into like the green, the red, or the blue axis. So you can set the direction that you're about to draw by clicking your arrow keys. So for me, I want to use my left arrow, which will lock into the green direction. And I want to draw a rectangle that's going up and down kind of like this, right? So normally we kind of start with a rectangle on the ground, but we're not going to do that this time. That's why we're using our directional keys, my right or my left key, before I click and draw my rectangle, so that I'm left with one. You know, it could be this way, I don't really care, but I want it to be up and down, kind of like this. And when you've done that, let's adjust our camera so that we're looking straight at it, as if we're about ready to paint on a mural here. I like to kind of sometimes just start with a rectangle and then draw on top of it for a shape. So if we're going to do a ramp, let's kind of imagine what the side view of a ramp would look like. So let's go ahead and draw that arc, okay? So hit A for arc. That will switch to your arc tool. Now we're going to draw our first point starting in the bottom left. So I'm going to click once to set my first point of the arc. For my second point of the arc, I don't know if I want to go all the way to the very top corner because I want my skate ramp to have like a little flat spot up the top to be able to stand on, you know? So I'm going to go about right here and do a second click. Then notice you can bend the arc, right? Now, I don't want a ramp like that. I would like fly right off, right? So I'm going to bend it down a little bit, something like that. So I click again and I've placed it. Okay? You've noticed that I've split my shape into 2 pieces now by creating this arc. Okay, so I'm going to use my eraser tool, which is an E. And remember, you can't just click in the middle here to erase something. The eraser only erases lines. So I can click and erase these extra lines to the top and left. That way I'm just left with this kind of ramp cutout piece. At this point, all that's left to do is we're going to push-pull it. So I'm going to hit P for push-pull. I'm going to click and drag my ramp out a little bit. Again, maybe that's a little far. I might push that back in. I don't really care how far it is. Obviously, I don't want a ramp that is going to go, like that or anything. That's a little crazy. But something like this is fine. So we just pull it back a little bit. Now, we're not quite done. What I want to do is I want to make like a half pipe. So I want to make a copy of this. So let's kind of go through those steps. So first thing, I'm going to hit spacebar, which takes me back to my little arrow tool, the selection tool. Now, in previous videos, we've talked about how making things into groups is important, so that way they don't get stuck together if I move it around, and it also lets me like rotate, and I'll show you that in a second. So with our selection tool, I'm going to triple click, really 3 quick clicks, right, so that everything is highlighted blue. Once it's all highlighted, I'm going to right click and say make it a group. Remember, making it a group makes it kind of like a finished piece that's not going to get stuck on other pieces. Okay, so we need to make a copy. Again, this was also part of that last video where you made copies of your blocks and made your name or your initials. So let's go ahead and hit M for move. I'm just going to move mine off to the side just a little bit to leave myself some room right here. So if I want to drag a copy out, the way that I like to do it is when I have my move tool selected, if you tap your control key, remember how when you tap it you see that little plus sign next to your tool? That lets me do a copy move. So with that control key pushed, I can drag a copy straight out. Okay? Now, the other important part about being a group is if I am back on my M tool, my move tool, if you notice, I'll get closer here, if I hover over a side of my group here, you see how there's like little red marks? So if I look at it from this side, I got red marks here. If I look at it from the top view down, you get red marks there, or the side right there. So those little red marks are ways that you can grab it and rotate your shape, right? So what you're going to want to do is get a nice view from the top, like look down on it a little bit. So with our move toolbox selected, I can grab one of these little red X marks and rotate it around so that it's facing the other way, right? And now back with my move tool, I can just I like to grab a corner, right? So I'm going to grab a corner and just slide it right into there so that now I've got a little half pipe. Mine's a little bit bumpy at the bottom here. That doesn't look very safe, but that's okay. So hopefully now you've got a copy rotated the other direction so that you can skate like that. Okay? So that's the first shape. Again, if you need to watch any of that again, feel free to pause it, rewind, and watch those steps again. But when you're ready to do the next shape, I'm going to move over to the side here. Again, Canvas has a picture of what this should look like, but I'm going to go ahead and draw out the crawling tube next. So what I need you to do is hit C for circle. And then again, before we start drawing it, I don't want a circle on the ground, so I'm going to hit my left key on my keyboard to get my green direction locked in. And I'm going to draw another circle that's going up and down, kind of like I started with the rectangle before. Okay, so I made a circle that's going up and down. Now, I'm going to need to make another circle inside of it. I'm going to show you the problem with just drawing another circle, though. Because sometimes, if you just try to draw another circle, see how it's like, well, it's not really even. Sometimes it's annoying to try to find the center and then draw it out. So let me show you a new tool. Go ahead and hit F. F is your offset tool. So what offset does is if I click, you can see that it's drawing the exact same shape, but at a slightly different scale. It's kind of nice on more complex shapes. I'll just show you an example over here. Like if I hit offset here, see how it's drawing that same shape, but just added like a little edge around it. So offset can be kind of nice to make like a little border around something. So again, oops, when you hit F for offset, you can make a little ring inside of the existing circle. So you have like a little border now. Okay. So the next thing that you're going to want to do is, if this is going to become a tube, we need to get rid of the middle stuff. So I'm hitting spacebar, which again goes back to my main selection tool. I'm just going to click once on this middle chunk of it. So with just this middle part selected, I'm going to go to my keyboard and hit delete. So that got rid of just that middle part. Okay, so I selected the middle, hit delete, and now I'm left with just this outer ring. So, as you can probably guess, we're going to hit P for push-pull. I'm going to slide it back a little bit, and now I've got a little tube I can crawl through. Okay? As with all of our shapes, it's probably a good idea once we're done with it to, again, go back to our selection tool, triple-click to select it, right-click and make it a group. That way, just in case, and it's not going to matter too much right now, but on future assignments it will, the reason why it's important to make things a group is now I can have it intersecting all these other shapes and it's not going to affect it. Whereas if I didn't make these a group, it would get all stuck together. Okay? So it's important to make things groups once you're done with it. Alright, so that's it for the first video. Again, feel free to watch it again if you need to see it. But that should give you 2 of the easier shapes to draw before you move into the other 3. Alright, good luck.